Welcome back to Rad City Resin, where you get a new tutorial every week. This week, I'm so excited to show you the idea I've been brewing. Let's see if you can guess what it is. I'll start this project with a drawing, and any good drawing always starts with the most basic shapes. In this case, I'm using a wide circle, an oval, and two little rectangles. This doesn't need to be perfect, we just need the most rudimentary forms here. I'll refine the shape until I'm happy with it. Can you guess what it is? If you guessed a cauldron, you'd definitely be right. Now, I'm going to take a sheet of acetate film and lay that over my drawing. I'm going to use a tube of black fabric paint to trace the shape. This doesn't necessarily come out smoothly, so I'm going to use my dotting tool to smooth it out as much as possible. Again, I don't need this to be perfect, I'm just making a form. I left this to dry for about an hour, then once it was solid, I flooded the area within the fabric paint with resin. I cured this for about 2 minutes, which was maybe a little too long because it warped the acetate. Not a huge deal, but it did cause my resin to cure in that same slightly warped shape, but I'm not too mad at it because it kind of adds a little bit of whimsy. Listen, if we make mistakes, just roll with them. What's the harm? Once it cooled down a bit, I used some embroidery scissors to cut the shape out. After trimming, I peeled the acetate off the back of the resin. Some of the fabric paint stuck to the resin, so I peeled off what I could with my fingernails, then wiped away the rest using isopropyl alcohol. Next, I used some violet Picasso alcohol ink to color the cauldron. I added a few drops directly to the cured resin, then sprayed with isopropyl alcohol to make sure it fully flooded and fully coated the cauldron. You can let this air dry, or you can apply a little bit of heat to evaporate the alcohol. Just use extreme caution no matter what you do. Next, I use this Baltic Day chameleon powder to dust the cauldron and add a little bit of shimmer. Now, I covered this with a domed layer of resin to seal in the color and shimmer. After I cured it, I did the same with the other side. Now, I need some bubbles from my cauldron, so I took a silicone pad and added a few drops of resin directly to the pad. I used my dotting tool to pull some resin from those drops to make smaller drops. I cured these for about 1 minute. After they were cured, I peeled them away from the silicone pad, then stuck them flat side down to a piece of tape. I placed it into this plastic takeout container that I typically use when I'm trying to stain something or add ink to little pieces like this. I picked out a few fun colors for my alcohol ink stash. These are also by Picasso, and they are my favorite. You'll definitely find a link to these down in the channel description below. While you're there, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I put a drop or two of each color all around the dish, then I used a paintbrush to coat each dot. After the dots dried, I pulled them off the tape. I put down a line of UV resin on a silicone pad, then I placed the dots into that resin and pushed them around until I was happy with the arrangement. I wanted some variety so that it would look like the cauldron was just bubbling away. Once I was satisfied with the arrangement, I cured this part for about 2 minutes. I took a look at the cauldron and felt like it could use a little bit more shaping. I finally bought one of these deburring tools from Temu, and I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting, but once I had it out of the package, I realized I had absolutely no clue how to use it, and it did not come with instructions. I watched a few videos to try to figure it out, then I used it to clear away some of the overpour. I also hollowed out the lip of the cauldron to give it that really nice shapely effect. I added a little resin to the bottom of the bubble piece, then I placed it on the cauldron using my tweezers. I actually also used my tweezers to prop up the upper part of the bubble piece to keep it level so that it would cure in line with the cauldron. I added a few more layers to make sure that this was all super secure. I didn't want it coming apart at all. During one of those layers, I accidentally got a little resin under the resin piece and I cured it before I realized it was there, so I needed to sand it. If you want to see how I made this little sanding box, watch last week's video. I gave it a really good sanding with my Ryobi rotary tool fitted with a 180 grit sanding wheel. I sprayed it with water to clean off the sanding dust, then coated the whole thing with one more layer of resin. After I cured that layer, I used my dotting tool to place a few drops of resin on the bubbles and kind of trailing down the cauldron. I added a few shakes of glitter. Then, as I cured it, I shook off the excess. I also used a soft paintbrush to try to brush away any extra glitter that I could. I used my other rotary tool to drill a small hole at the top of my cauldron, then added a little jump ring at the top. Now, is this not the most magical little cauldron you've ever seen? I love how cute and whimsical it turned out, and I love that you could really come up with lots of different color schemes and, different effects using different types of glitter to really customize this and make it something special. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it as a necklace or if I'm going to add it to a keychain, but one way or another, I'm so excited about it. If you're ready for spooky season, leave me a comment below and tell me the parts that you love best about it. Thank you so much for watching. Go make something cool today, and as always, stay rad. If you liked this video, check out my resin tutorial playlist.